Welcome to St Mark's Church, Broomhill and Broomhall in the city of Sheffield. This is a very special church and it has a remarkable history. The spaces we inhabit shape us. They shape our thinking, the way we relate to each other, and the way we experience ourselves. And this is especially true of sacred spaces. This building and its history has shaped the community that has worshipped within it in rich and inspirational ways. We hope that you enjoy this video introducing to you a church that is special to us. Before we turn to the church as it is today, it is worth recalling its extraordinary history. David Price is a member of the congregation and he has edited a history of St Mark's.
As the suburbs of Sheffield began to grow rapidly under the influence of industrialisation, the Church of England realised that a single parish church serving such an extensive parish that stretched from the Hallam Moors as far as Tinsley was inadequate for the needs of a growing population. Building a church in Broomhill was one of the efforts to meet those needs. The story of St Mark's begins in the 1850s. A prominent local resident, William Butcher, a steelmaker, donated the land, and money was raised to build a prefabricated iron church in 1854. But the iron church was intended only as a stopgap until more funds could be raised to put up a permanent stone building. In 1868, work started on a Gothic church to the designs of the architect W.H. Crossland. It was opened in 1871. This first permanent church served the population of Broomhill well until 1940. In that year, in the night of the 12th of December, the church took a direct hit by one or more incendiary bombs. The church building was left an unstable ruin, though miraculously the spire remained relatively unscathed. The burnt-out ruin was to remain for 20 years. The move to rebuild St Mark's started in 1948 with the appointment of George Pace as architect. Pace, then the surveyor to the Diocese of Sheffield, had already established a reputation as an innovative ecclesiastical architect. He drew his inspiration from the British arts and crafts movement, but was also an admirer of modern European architecture, and particularly the work of Walter Gropius. Rebuilding the church was a long and arduous process. Pace produced 3 designs for the church, of which the third was finally given the go-ahead in 1960.
The rebuilt church was opened in 1963. The congregation had continued to worship together in the parish hall throughout the entire period from 1940 to 1963 while the church was closed. In 1963, they re-entered the building, a new and very different church. Richard Taylor, a member of the congregation and author of the book How to Read a Church, takes us round the building.
From the outside, the church is understated. Clad in stone, although the stone conceals a reinforced concrete structure. Its most visible side is the south front, with its repeating pattern of narrow vertical windows that faces the Green and Glossop Road. Pace incorporated into his scheme the Victorian spire and the south porch, which remained intact. The main entrance to the church now is placed, a little awkwardly, on the north side, reached by a flight of steps down from Broomfield Road. You enter the church through a dark, low foyer that gives no hint of what's to come. It's almost as if Pace wanted to create a sense of surprise. But when you come to the doors on the left, you enter the main body, and light and space are revealed. But even then, not everything is revealed at once. You enter through the narthex, at the end of which a beam partially conceals what is to come. It's only when you reach the far end of the narthex can you take in the full glory of Pace's creation. Pace was at the forefront of a liturgical revolution which rejected traditional ideas of a nave for the congregation, followed by a choir stall, followed by the sanctuary and the altar for the priest. Here at St. Mark's, the choir is away on the north side. The nave and the congregation are up close to the sanctuary and the priest, and the altar is set away from the wall so that the priest faces the congregation. The plan of the church is a very irregular hexagon, which has been moulded to encompass the various elements of the church. The south side is flat, but the north side is angled to create space for the choir and for a baptistry, divided from the church by one of the main structural supports for the roof. Let's look at some of the details of the interior. Prominent in the church is the pulpit and the vast soaring sounding board above it. Now, sounding boards were placed above pulpits traditionally to help the preacher's voice carry further. This sounding board has no such effect, but reflects Pace's interest in Le Corbusier, whose chapel at Ronchamp in France had been completed just 5 years before Pace started his final designs for St. Mark's. Le Corbusier's influence is also apparent in the form of the east window, with its irregular pattern of sturdy glazing bars that perhaps represent the tree of life. Now, in the northeast of the church is the organ loft, and here Pace has taken what is often a fairly simple, even boring design, and turned it into an architectural fantasy, a cityscape, almost as if it is a heavenly Jerusalem.
George Pace liked to work with artists and skilled practitioners in completing his designs. One of the great glories of St. Mark's is its stained glass. Francis Gray has produced a booklet describing the stained glass windows.
The east window is by the stained glass craftsman Harry Stammers. It represents the Te Deum, the hymn of praise to the Trinity that's sung at Matins in the Anglican tradition. The central figure is Christ in majesty, although behind him you can see the cross. Above is the hand of God the Father, with the index and middle fingers stretched out in a traditional gesture of blessing. At Christ's feet is the dove of the Holy Spirit, and surrounding him are crowds of worshippers of all ages and times and ethnicities. We haven't yet been into the chapel. The chapel was designed as a quiet, intimate space for private reflection, and it looks out on the memorial gardens. The stained glass in here is by the artist Gillian Rees-Thomas, who deserves to be much better known than she is. It's an abstract design which begins in clear glass, and the colour gradually intensifies as it rises. The verticals and horizontals in the design call to mind Jacob's ladder, which in his dream stretched all the way between earth and heaven itself. The greatest stained glass of all is only revealed when you turn from the church and walk towards the west door. Above you is the west window designed by Patrick Raintians and John Piper. It represents the Holy Spirit, and you can interpret it in several ways. As the prayers of the faithful rising up to heaven, or as the fire of the Holy Spirit descending on the disciples at Pentecost. For some of us, it also represents the bombing that destroyed the old St. Mark's. From the ruins of that, the new church has arisen.
The Piper window is a fitting end to the tour, as indeed it marks the end of each service, reminding the congregation as they leave the building that they have the power to light up the world. For some final thoughts, I pass you now to the vicar, the Reverend Sue Hammersley.
We hope you've enjoyed your tour of this wonderful building. But a church is so much more than the building. It's the community that gathers to worship here that gives St Mark's its life. And yet I have come to realise that this beautiful building does shape the kind of community we are. Its openness helps us to be open to the community we serve. And we long for the day when we can open our doors again to welcome everyone who seeks sanctuary, beauty, and peace. Thank you for joining us today.